and welcome to SVG-TV News for Wednesday, January 28th, 2026. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. Former Prime Minister, now leader of the opposition, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, revealed on radio this morning that he has been barred from sitting in on a meeting of the Finance Committee where the 2026 budget estimates were to be formally presented ahead of being laid in the House of Assembly tomorrow. Dr. Gonsalves said he was informed by the Speaker of the House of Assembly through written correspondence that he was unable to attend the meeting because he has not yet been sworn in by taking the oath of allegiance and making the declaration required to qualify him to sit as an elected member of the House of Assembly.
She has said in a communication sent to me by the clerk, communication to the clerk of the House, that if I ask the chairman of the committee, who is the Prime Minister, that I can sit but I can't vote on anything there today. I mean, it's to tell you the truth, it's an absurd letter, an absurd communication from her, from the Honorable Speaker. So I penned a letter to her yesterday in response to this particular ruling. The business of the proceedings of the Parliament, the proceedings of the House, is the business of the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. This is what I sent by email yesterday to the Honorable Speaker, Ronia Durham Balcom, Mrs. Balcom. The subject, decision to bar the opposition from participation in the Finance Committee. And I'm going to read this letter to you. Madam Speaker, your correspondence dated 26th of January 2026. That's the correspondence I referred to just now, which was sent to the clerk and was sent to me. Your correspondence dated January 26, 2026 is an erroneous, egregious, and high-handed assault on democratic norms in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, directing the leader of the opposition to seek quote-unquote permission of the Prime Minister to attend the meeting of the Finance Committee is an immature display of triumphalist partisan politicking that has absolutely no place or precedent in the history of an independent St. Vincent and the Grenadines. In prohibiting the opposition members from participating fully in the Finance Committee meeting, you are behaving in a manner that is biased, inconsistent, and against your responsibility to purposefully facilitate rather than obstruct the operations of the Parliament.
The opposition leader said he strongly rejected the Speaker's suggestion that the opposition deliberately flouted Parliament by failing to attend the first sitting.
And you high-handedly declared that your prohibition is the, quote, the consequences of such indifference, unquote. The members of the opposition will not permit this partisan rewriting of history to take place. It is public knowledge that I took the position not to attend the first sitting of the Parliament as a last resort, in consideration of my safety, and after a direct appeal to the then Governor General of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Indeed, my decision not to attend was made after the government flouted, quote-unquote, or was quote-unquote indifferent to the Governor General's request that additional security be provided to me for the occasion. On December 15, 2025, before your ascension to the high office of Speaker, I wrote Dame Susan Duggan, the then Governor General, to highlight the government's refusal to accord me the complement of security allocated by the decision, the cabinet decision to previous prime ministers. I wrote also in light of the previous bloody assault and injuries that I sustained at the hands of the NDP supporters at a prior sitting of Parliament.
Dr. Gonsalves disclosed that he had previously written to former Governor General Dame Susan Duggan on December 15, 2025, outlining serious concerns for his personal security should he attend the first sitting of Parliament.
This matter has now come to the fore, that is the matter of my security. With the opening of the first session of the 12th Parliament, scheduled for December the 23rd, 2025, it is highly unlikely that the supporters of the triumphalist NDP will be gathered, highly likely that the supporters of the triumphalist NDP will be gathered in their large numbers at the Parliament building in Calico on that day. Given the fact that such an assembly not too long ago had sought to block my entry to Parliament, and from that crowd a hurled missile occasioned a severe injury to my head. The issues touching and concerning my personal security arise. Indeed, even with personal security on that prior occasion, I was injured. Without personal security, I'm likely to be a proverbial sitting duck for some crazed NDP supporter or supporters, or some disturbed person or persons whipped up by the triumphalism of a frenzied mob. Such a likely scenario requires very little imagination. I went on in that letter to say, and I'm quoting in that letter again, say, accordingly, I seek your appropriate intervention for an ongoing corrective. This is to the then Governor General. It would be indeed, quote, it would be indeed a sad day for the reputation of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and his parliamentary democracy if a former Prime Minister who is the current leader of the opposition is constrained not to attend the formal opening of a new session of the Parliament or any other sitting of Parliament on account of reasonable concerns about his personal security and safety in circumstances caused and encouraged by the NDP regime and its toxic ecosystem of internet crazies grounded in bile, anger, and an uncontrollable thirst for an ignoble, unjustified revenge, unquote. That's what I wrote the Governor General, requesting of her to have the government provide proper security.
Dr. Gonzalez further explained that in a letter to the Speaker of the House of Assembly dated Tuesday, January 27, 2026, he informed her that the then Governor General had summoned the Minister of National Security to a meeting to discuss those security concerns and had recommended compliance with standing decisions of Cabinet. Dr. Gonzalez said those recommendations were subsequently ignored by the government. According to the opposition leader, the failure to address these concerns led to a careful considered decision not to attend the first sitting of Parliament, a decision he said was based on what he described as a legitimate threat to his safety and the government's indifference and disregard for those threats. Dr. Gonzalez described the Speaker's decision to bar him from participating in the Finance Committee meeting today as an affront to democratic process. He said the decision runs directly counter to the Speaker's duty to defend democratic principles and to uphold the rights of privilege and privileges of members of the House of Assembly in a fair and impartial manner. He further argued that the commencement of the Speaker's tenure has been marked by immaturity, characterized not by strict adherence to the rules, but by what he described as a weaponization of those rules to deter participation, accountability, and democratic norms. He said he has not received a response to his correspondence either from the Speaker of the House or the Governor General, both of whom were copied on the letter. While acknowledging that he may not have missed much by being excluded from the hours-long Finance Committee meeting today, the opposition leader remarked that his participation could have assisted the government side by offering corrections where necessary. And with high anticipation surrounding the presentation of the budget estimates in Parliament tomorrow, Thursday, January 29, 2026, by the new government, Opposition leader Dr. Ralph Gonzalez has claimed that there is little in the estimates for the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines to look forward to, describing them as ill-suited for what he called these perilous times. According to Dr. Gonzalez, the recurrent budget is like treading water dangerously, gasping for breath and drowning, while he described the capital budget as unimaginative.
There are some things which are worthy in continuing, the continuity from our time. In some cases, some things. There are others, the estimates are in retreat or in a condition of stasis, standing still. And then there are bits and pieces elsewhere, and overall unsuited for these perilous times. And do not expect this budget to generate economic growth. This budget, these estimates is about controlling and dispensing scarcity. And I don't want to be alarmist. What I've seen for the budget the estimates for this year, and what is projected for next year and 2028, because those are inside of the estimates for noting.
Yes.
We'll approve for 2026 tomorrow or whenever this debate is concluded, but 2027 and 2028 gives you an indication as to where they want to go, as presently advised.
Dr. Gonzalez, who was joined on the radio program by his son, former Minister of Finance, Camilla Gonzalez, said what stood out most to him was that the estimates show a current account deficit of $105.5 million. He noted that this represents a massive increase from last year's deficit of $5.5 million and is greater than the combined deficits of the last 4 budgets.
The deficit in 2024 was $24.6 million budgeted. The deficit in 2023 was $10.3 million. The deficit in 2022 was the Sofre aftermath, $49.5 million. So that you add those 4 years deficits together, it ain't come up to Friday's first budget deficit.
That's right. Add the 4 of them.
You add the 4 of them on the current account and change leave. Over $15 million would leave.
That's right.
So this deficit is more than the current account deficit for the last 4 budgets
Combined.
And leave $15.4 million change.
And they're the ones who would always come to Parliament and say, this is a deficit budget. Where you going with a deficit budget? You can't pay your bills. The deficit budget can't work. And then they bring the largest deficit budget
in the history of this country.
It's certainly that I can recall. In all the years that I was finance minister, the government never brought forward a budget with a deficit anywhere near the $105 million that the NDP is proposing this time.
But
Dr. Gonzalez said that in addition to the $105.5 million current account deficit, before even addressing the capital budget, the government must find nearly $300 million for amortization, contributions to the sinking fund to service bonds, as well as tax and non-tax revenue obligations. He said this brings the total to more than $401.4 million.
I want that number sinking. And not to say they have a plan for next year or they have a plan for the year after, because what they have told us here, in next year they intend to run a deficit of $74 million on the current account.
Yes.
And in 2028 they intend to run a deficit of $84 million. And when you add for those years the amortization and the sinking fund contribution required before you get into capital, you add this year, next year, the indicative year next year, and the indicative year for 2028, it will be $1.2 billion. That's the story. But right now, you're facing $105.5 million deficit on the current account, the biggest deficit, more than all the 4 previous ones put together, plus over $15 million change on top of that. Yeah? This is the story. We'll come to the capital shortly. That's the story there. They intend to collect $906.85 million in tax revenue and non-tax revenue. The truth is this: what they have for the tax revenue and non-tax revenue is more or less on the same thing like last year.
No real difference.
No real difference.
The second sitting of the first session of the 12th Parliament is expected to commence at 9 a.m. tomorrow at the Parliament building at Glen. At the meeting, the estimates of revenue and expenditure will be laid by Minister of Finance, Prime Minister Dr. Godwin Friday. In other local news now, we hear that Prime Minister Dr. Godwin Friday announced that government will establish a private sector advisory council by the end of March 2026 to strengthen a structured collaboration with the private sector. A news release from the Office of the Prime Minister says the council will serve as a direct link between cabinet and the private sector, meeting regularly to review economic conditions, identify challenges, and propose practical solutions to improve the business climate and reduce the cost of doing business in SVG. The announcement was made during the Prime Minister's second engagement with private sector leaders, which was also attended by members of cabinet and senior government officials.
This body will serve as the engine room for our collaboration, ensuring that the insights shared in forums like this today are not lost, but are immediately channeled into policy and action. This council will act as a direct conduit between cabinet and the business community, mandated to meet regularly and to review economic performance. They would identify the bottlenecks that I know that many of you complain about, and to bring solutions that will hold both the public sector and the private sectors accountable for the commitments that we make.
The Prime Minister's office says further details on the establishment of the Private Sector Advisory Council will be provided in due course. And government services are moving closer to being offered online as the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project, CARTIP, advances, marked by the opening of a two-day workshop today at the National Insurance Services Building. As part of efforts to support the implementation of the project, equipment valued at 288,000 EC dollars was handed over to enhance services at the Civil Registry and to support the rollout of the unique identification system. CARTIP project coordinator in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Winston George, outlined the readiness of the project and highlighted the progress made towards modernizing government services through digital platforms.
The project aims to develop a digital identification system based on what we call a multipurpose ID framework aligned with regional standards. Assign a unique identification number to individuals anchored in the civil registry. Create a digital authentication layer to enable secure access to government services. And ensure legal and regulatory reforms to support an integrated ID and authentication platform. Another component of the project has to do with a citizen portal, systems integration, and user authentication. We are at the point where we await the approval of a contract for the implementation of this aspect. So this is the front end where citizens will access various services from the government. So this work is critical to enabling seamless digital public service delivery, reducing administrative costs, and ensuring service continuity, especially during crises such as natural disasters or even health emergencies.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines is one of several OECS countries benefiting from the U.S. $30 million CARTIP initiative. Acting head of OECS Regional Integration, Clarence Henry, underscored the significance of the project's rollout in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, noting its potential to improve service delivery, efficiency, and regional integration.
Today really marks an important milestone in the digital transformation journey for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We really gather here today to not just reflect on how far we have come, and we have certainly moved a distance, but also to reaffirm our collective commitment to building a modern, secure, and inclusive digital transformation system, in particular digital identification system, one that strengthens governance, empowers citizens, and positions St. Vincent and Grenadines and the wider OECS community to thrive in an increasingly competitive and digital focus world. Now we recognize that the digitization processes and systems is a significant magnitude event.
Representing the Attorney General, Chanel Hathaway commended the advancement of digitalization within the civil registry, describing it as a critical step towards improving access to public services and strengthening governance.
The legal reform component of this project is particularly significant. We are not simply digitizing the existing processes. We are reimagining the relationship between citizen and state in this digital age. This requires careful consideration of governance structures, clear delineation of roles and responsibilities, and the establishment of robust safeguards against misuse and abuse of personal data. The legislation we develop must anticipate challenges. It must provide the remedies and establish accountability mechanisms that inspire public.
Among the services being rolled out on the CARTIP are the new Tax Information Management System, the Vinci Single Window for Trade Facilitation, and the Unified Land Information System. It was also noted that contracts have been signed for the full implementation phase of the project. And President of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Teachers Union, Oswald Robinson, has called for an urgent meeting with a Minister of Education to address several outstanding matters affecting teachers and the wider education sector. Robinson said the proposed meeting would also seek to establish a formal mechanism for regular consultations between the Teachers Union and the government. He explained that such a framework is necessary to improve social dialogue, enhance transparency, and strengthen communication on issues impacting teachers' working conditions, student outcomes, and the overall education system. The union president noted that while discussions have taken place in the past, the absence of a structured and consistent consultation process has often resulted in delays in resolving key issues. Robinson said regular engagement would promote a more unified and collaborative approach between the government and the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Teachers Union, allowing matters to be addressed in a timely and constructive manner.
And do what you're supposed to do. Expect that the union will speak.
Definitely.
And we would speak even louder because people have great expectations. At the same time, you know, we're exercising patience and we are very understanding.
Yeah.
I just want to say to the Minister of Education, Honorable Philip Jackson, that I wrote to you in December. And I am awaiting a response in the public of those things I saw.
Right.
And I asking the minister to deal with them.
Right.
Refer them to the relevant ministry.
Right.
And we have also written asking for a meeting to have a conversation with the three ministers of education.
Right.
Because it's important that they understand things which are on our agenda. Some things have been outstanding.
For years upon years.
Donkey years, as grandmother used to say.
Since the Rock of Gibraltar was
and there are a few new things that we need to sit down and work out.
Right.
Because what we really want is a mechanism. Put a mechanism in place so that we could have periodic conversation.
Right.
Whether once a quarter or, you know.
Right.
We need to have conversation because social dialogue is important. The union and the government.
Robinson further emphasized that collaboration and open dialogue are essential to maintaining industrial harmony and ensuring the continued development and stability of education in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. He added that the union remains committed to working with the Ministry of Education in the best interests of teachers and students alike. Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of National Security Sinclair Leacock has expressed concern over the crime situation in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Speaking on NBC Radio's face-to-face program earlier today, Minister Leacock said there is an unsettling feeling in society due to the current crime situation, stressing that criminal gangs will not be tolerated.
It's not good. Yes, we had statistics that showed that there was a reduction in homicides last year over the previous 2 years. I congratulate whoever contributed to that, the former administration, the forces of law and order. but it is still too much. Now, I believe and from where I sit and I know, there's an uncanny peace in the country at the moment from those who are still determined to disrupt the lives in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And I've been having reports from the force of law and order, and I'm in constant touch with the regional security system. And I will not hesitate. I will not hesitate, because no criminal element, gangs, must be allowed to own any square inch of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, or have the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines living in fear because they're determined to have their own way.
The National Security Minister also called on members of the public to cooperate with the police, particularly during arrest. He referenced a recent arrest carried out by the police, acknowledging that the level of force used may have been excessive, but emphasized that officers must be allowed to do their job.
Because I'm going to end the story. When the police went to the house, the guy ran. The police shot him, which was not the correct thing to do, I believe. He could have chased and pursued. But why did he run? Right. If you're at home and the police come, stay there, stay put. Let the police do the interrogation. And that brings me to another point. If the police arrest you, go with them. Do not try to present yourself as being the baddest John in town. And you're going to fight and wrestle with them. And when they sometimes lose control or don't sufficiently de-escalate, you have these skirmishes, and everybody has it on a video to highlight that is police brutality. Yes, we have police excesses at times, but we have to understand the police are our force points of contact when we are violated. So let us do those things that could have more harmonious relationships, you know.
Meanwhile, Minister Leacock said he is taking a measured and holistic approach to addressing the police force and its response to crime. He noted that the force requires specialized training free from political interference.
Examinations. I'm triangulating. My ears are on the ground. I'm a behavioralist. I'm a behavioral scientist. I'm a management specialist. I've worn the uniforms. And I can pick sense out of nonsense. And I know to turn the police force around. We have to have a team at the top. The police force and the leadership of the force are themselves victims of the political culture. When they all get up there or get into the top, we have every man for himself. We have a different expression I could use, which I would not use this to describe this morning. And people feel that they are obliged not to apply proper police protocols, but to respond to political directives. So we can answer the politicians not to blame to where we are. You understand? So we have to begin to see how we can build different police forces. How we can have enlisted policemen, and how we can have people who join the police force who intend to be officers and go through a different regime of training. Leadership, management, and specialized training.
Minister Leacock reiterated that a soft approach is one of the strategies being used to tackle crime, alongside an expanded media campaign aimed at raising public awareness about crime in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Meanwhile, the minister is preparing to assume the chairmanship of the Regional Security System Council, the RSS, of ministers on radio today. Minister Leacock said he will travel to St. Lucia on March 27th and 28th for the RSS Council of Ministers meeting, during which St. Vincent and the Grenadines will officially assume the chairmanship from St. Lucia. Minister Leacock said he is fully prepared, trained, and equipped to carry out his responsibilities as Minister of National Security, noting that national security is a full-time occupation and stressing that he is looking forward to working closely with regional partners to strengthen security cooperation across member states. Staying up to date with technology is critical to ensuring the smooth flow of customs operations, according to Assistant Comptroller Monifa Allen. Allen made the remarks during an interview with NBC Radio earlier this week, where she stressed that continuous training is essential for customs officers and other law enforcement agencies. She explained that criminal methods are constantly evolving, making it necessary for officers to adapt and keep pace with modern technological advancements. Allen noted that ongoing training coupled with the use of modern technology is vital to effectively combat emerging threats and maintain efficiency within customs operations.
Recently, with the opening of the new modern port, we have introduced additional scanners, palletized scanners, containerized scanners as well. And this is to enhance our non-intrusive, that is not having to open.
Right.
Our non-intrusive examination, that is to enhance our risk management so that we're able to better target what the items, the consignments that are coming in. And we're able to, once risk management is applied and we have better targeting, we are able to maneuver our staff and utilize our resources more efficiently. So that is one way that we utilize technology. We also utilize technology in intelligence sharing. We build relationships with other customs, other border agents, other law enforcement agents.
In addition to operational efficiency, the protection of society remains a top priority for the Customs Department. Senior Assistant Comptroller Chanel Dick Bristle said the department relies heavily on a risk management approach to balance trade facilitation with national security. She explained that managing risks is essential to customs operations, ensuring that legitimate trade moves smoothly while potential threats are identified and addressed.
Well, it goes hand in hand again with the risk management approach. You know, once you're compliant based on your historical records, and again we use the technology like we have our ASICUDA system, which is the automated system for customs data, and so we can use that to get information in terms of the history of the importer, in terms of their trading patterns and so on, and also, like for instance, if they are non-compliant in terms of the number of fines they would have had or the number of modifications they would have done, you know, for errors that may be deliberate, maybe knowingly or recklessly, you know. So oftentimes they would be fined and they would have to do a modification to their declaration and pay the additional duties and taxes. So all those things would help us to identify the non-compliant customers, right? And so we would spend more time doing examination for their goods. And we have the system whereby those goods would go through like a red lane. And red lane means that examination is required, physical examination is required. And there are some commodities that would go to a yellow lane.
Allen also revealed that several interface upgrades are planned to enhance the department's operational capacity. She said the upgrades will allow customs officials to maximize the use of existing systems, including the integration of artificial intelligence features. According to her, these AI tools are expected to assist with data organization, particularly in relation to certificates of origin, thereby improving accuracy and efficiency.
Currently upgrading our interface, which is ASICUDA. Yeah, so ASICUDA we are currently embarking on an upgrade to one of the latest version. I don't think it's the latest, but it's a very up-to-date version of ASICUDA. And
yeah, we're moving from 4.2 to 4.4.
Right. So, and this would allow us to do a lot more. Especially in terms of what Mrs. Brazer was explaining with the selectivity of the lanes, because it's quite automated. It has some AI features, and it helps us. It takes away a lot of the
paperwork.
And assists us in organizing the data so that it is more useful. And we also have the e-certificate of origin. We started a pilot of an e-certificate of origin in 2025. So this year we should be expecting to see it taken full-fledged.
As a key component of the OAS-funded Unlocking Opportunities Through Climate Change Initiatives project, the Center for Enterprise Development, CD, successfully conducted a community program for entrepreneurial development workshop in Barley recently. A news release from the CD said, facilitated by business consultant Catilda James, the workshop aimed to equip local community groups and entrepreneurs with the essential skills and tools to build climate-resilient businesses. Participants engage in practical training focused on identifying risk and opportunities and developing sustainable business models. The CD says the session was well received, with participants leaving with actionable ideas for enhancing existing enterprises and launching new ventures. The UWCCI project focuses on strengthening the capacity of underserved communities, enabling them to not only withstand environmental challenges but also to create sustainable livelihoods by fostering entrepreneurial solutions. The project empowers communities to become active agents of their own economic and environmental resilience. The CD says the workshop entirely represents the ongoing commitment of the UNCCI project and CD to ensure that communities across St. Vincent and the Grenadines are better prepared to aid themselves and others in the face of a changing climate. The project continues with the CD business clinics in Maracaibo and Georgetown on February 24th and 25th, respectively. A 3-day climate change adaptation workshop is also scheduled for February 24th to 26th. Community groups and other interested persons are asked to contact the CD for more details.